Hi everyone, it's Danny. As the title suggests, I want to talk to you about when to water your orchids. Now, this is a general idea and title for the subject. It is rather long. So I will make it in 2 or 3 parts maybe, because the first part, I want to make it a theoretical one. I just want to tell you about the logic behind orchid growing and the microenvironment you're creating in your pots, because I strongly believe that if you have a very good logic on the subject, you can compensate for years of experience with orchids and also avoid a lot of issues. Why do orchids' roots rot? This is the question that everybody asks, and I'm sorry to say this, but on the internet you're only given part of the cause at best and only part of the solution. I do not agree with most of the things that are written on this subject, or I just think it's incomplete. And for you to know the logic behind it will help you so much you can't imagine. Okay, so everybody says that the main cause of root rot is overwatering. If you're telling this to a beginner or to somebody who really doesn't care how much what's happening actually in their pots, they just want to have a pretty flower in their house, this makes sense and it's a good advice to give. But if you're telling this to me or any other avid orchid lover who wants to know everything there is to know about them, it's a very stupid thing. I'm sorry, but it is. Imagine in nature, it can rain today, it can rain tomorrow or after a week, but it can also rain 3 times today and again tomorrow. And orchids don't rot. So obviously this is not the main reason of orchid root rot. So let's get to the bottom of this. Imagine your orchid is a living thing. It doesn't have a brain or a heart, but it does breathe like each and every one of us. And the fact that most of them are epiphytes tells you that the roots like to breathe as much as the leaves. And this is the reason why we use this bark medium or any kind of coarse, let's say, medium, which lets air being stuck here between the roots. It also creates air gaps between the roots. Now imagine if you had this orchid in a very well-packed sphagnum moss or any kind of soil for that matter that doesn't create these air pockets between the roots. And imagine you're watering it. What you're doing is limiting the amount of air you have in your pots. And what happens is the orchid cannot breathe anymore. It cannot exchange gases. So the orchid will suffer. And now imagine your immunitary system. When you're stressed or when you're tired, your immunitary system is weak and cannot fight off parasites. So this is why you get colds and you have to get vitamins to make your immunitary system strong enough and to fight the parasites. This is what happens to orchids as well. If they cannot breathe, their so-called immunitary system will not fight against fungi or any kind of parasites they might encounter. And also, if the medium is too moist all the time, this is a favorable place for the development of fungi, like rot, because rot is a fungi. So imagine the orchid is suffering and cannot fight off parasites. And imagine the constantly moist soil, which creates a good environment for fungi. Now this is the recipe for disaster. This is when the rot will take over the orchid's roots. Because the orchid cannot fight it, it cannot breathe, it will suffer, and the fungi, which is much more adapted to conditions, just like any other parasite, will take over. So if you're having a coarse mix and a lot of ventilation in your pots, you can water each day and nothing will happen actually. But if you don't have this ventilation, if you're not letting your orchid properly breathe in the pot, you can water it even once a week and it will still rot. So the main cause of root rot is the orchid's inability to properly breathe. So it will get weaker and weaker and it will get attacked by fungi. So I hope this was helpful and I hope you understood the logic behind it. Always think of everything you do, think it in the logical form. Get some knowledge about the subject and then think with your own logic. This will help you in everything you do. And I would like to make a small parenthesis here. This is what happens to plants in a planted tank. If they're not healthy, if something is lacking, they will get attacked by algae. And this is why sometimes in a planted tank you have this burst of algae and you want to give up planted tanks. Well, don't give up. Think of it in logical terms. Stop thinking that plants are dead things. They are alive, they breathe, and they need to be treated accordingly. Okay, I do a lot of references to aquaristics because I did have a planted tank for about 7 years and it taught me so much, but the most important thing is it taught me logic and it taught me how to think of plants and how to think of them as living things. So, okay, I hope this didn't bore you to death. I really think it's important for you to understand the logic behind it. There are quite a few other ideas to discuss, but I'm not gonna make this long. So, understand the logics, and then it's gonna be really, really hard to kill your orchid, trust me. Okay, I'll see you in part 2 when we'll discuss some different types of orchids and their preferences and how to tell when you need to water them. Okay, see you in a bit.